Hey y'all, Sherry G, and I'm back with a sort of a recap for Love and Marriage Huntsville, episode 8 of season 6. And I say sort of because I'm not going to expound on everything, but I am going to pick some things and discuss them. Yeah, the episode for me was a little lackluster. I think I would give it maybe like a 5. So there are some element of enthusiasm for me anyway, and then there was a little bit of drama, and then there was some comedy. Marcel being his usual sarcastic self. But anyway, before I get into my review or sort of review, keep in mind that the views expressed are alleged, it's of opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. So when I say that the episode gave a little enthusiasm, it gave a little bit of that enthusiasm and excitement in the beginning because it starts off with Melody teaching her property preservation class to a couple of students, and there's an investor there by the name of Keith. So the four of them are out there and they're walking the students around and through the property, showing them what things to point out when you want to solicit to the different banks for business. And as they're doing that, Kimmy shows up. The two ladies are really, really excited to see each other. And as they begin talking, Kimmy reveals that her biggest stress in life right now is at home. She talks about the fact that she's rebuilding her energy, but she's really ready to get back out in the workforce, because she's ready to start working on the irons that they have in the fire. So I guess there's a lot of things that they started, and due to her illness, they weren't able to push those things through. One of those being the new venture with Tiffany Hawes at the Hawes Law Firm. As you know, they're all supposed to be getting together to do some type of title company or some type of title work. And we also know that Kimmy is a realtor, so I'm sure she wants to get back out and, continue with her work in real estate. So anyway, when I was listening to Kimmy talk to Melody, one of the things I did admire about Melody is that she listened, but she really didn't give her, advice. She didn't go there. She just kind of listened. I don't know if that happened later because we know how it works with production and how they edit scenes and everything. But later on in this episode, Kimmy and Maurice are in the kitchen again. Again, she's cooking, and they're talking about the whole co parenting journey and the fact that each one of them are struggling to get Monster to do the things that they want him to do. And as they're talking, Monster actually walks in and they ask him how things are going. And it sounds like he's in some sort of program, like a boot camp, that's supposed to help him, I guess, with his behavioral issues. And this is just my allegation, my opinion, based on what I've heard. And so, anyway, he was supposed to produce a list of 20 things that he needed to focus on. And I guess that's one of the projects that came out of doing this particular boot camp. He's supposed to produce this list of 20 things. And so, anyway, Kimmy wanted to know what was on the 20 things, and she was really kind of perplexed to find out and disappointed that chores wasn't on that list, because we know that that is important for Kimmy. But I also think that when you list chores, you got to be specific about what the chores are. I don't know if they've done that or not because she just gave it a blanket, like chores without breaking down what those chores should be. But I think that if you're going to give a child a list of 20 things to do, you got to break down the chores. You can't just say chores. You got to put the chores on. At least that's how it would work in my family. And that's how I see it. At 17 years old, they don't want to do chores anyway. And we know that one of those chores is cleaning his room. So anyway, as it turns out, this is one of their struggles. And Kimmy is, she's struggling with how to discipline him around that. And so as she and Maurice begin talking, she says that I feel like you're only focusing on the things you want him to do, but you're just not even paying any attention to the things I want him to do. And he says, it's not that. It's not that I'm not paying attention to the things you want him to do. I'm just focused on the things I want him to do. And they kind of talk about that in one of the little outtakes. And when they would say that, like they kind of look at each other and then they giggle a little bit because Maurice just realizes he contradicted himself. He put his foot in his mouth. Yeah, Maurice, you did. That was not a good look. But anyway, as far as Kimmy is concerned, she really needs to put her foot down. She has to set boundaries. She has to sit down with herself and decide what those boundaries need to look like. And she needs to present that information to Maurice. And she not only needs to sit down and talk to him about these boundaries, but she needs to make sure she sticks to these boundaries. Because it's kind of sad that you go out into this crazy world, because that's what she's preparing to do, right? Go out in the crazy world. And even though she's doing something that she loves, like real estate to me is very interesting, like I love it. But it can also be stressful, especially dealing with people and they have all these desires and sometimes the things that they want based on what they produce on paper, it just can't happen. But anyway, when you're dealing with anybody outside of your home, in the public, customer service, any aspect of it, it can be stressful. So then to leave that and come back home and not have any peace at all, or for home to be even more stressful than what you face outside in the world, to me, it's pretty sad. But the bottom line is you get to control that. So Kimmy gets to control that. Like she can't control Maurice. She can't control Monster. She can only control herself. So she has to put up boundaries and make sure she sticks to them. If the boundaries are, I'm only cooking twice a week. So I don't know what you guys are going to do the rest of the week. You need to figure it out. That would relieve some of her stress. I know she enjoys cooking. I'm just using that as an example, but she needs to sit down and she needs to figure it out. What I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. Maybe I'm going to get out of the house on certain days and get away and have some girlfriend time. Whatever it looks like for her, but she needs to lay it out there. Or maybe the bottom line is, look, I am going to propose that we send Monster back to Kiowa. Because in this conversation with a Monster, he actually states that Kimmy is the harder of the disciplinary. So that just tells me that Maurice really doesn't discipline him that much at all. He may talk to him, he may talk at him, but it doesn't seem like he's really involved at all. Like he has this list of things and he says that he's struggling to get him to do it. It's because he's not there to enforce anything. And this is just my allegation based on what I've seen. I don't know. You guys share your thoughts down in the comments section. But I really think that, yeah, Kimmy needs to step it up. She needs to put up some boundaries because, girl, you just came through a tumultuous health journey. And although you're on the other side of it, your body is still trying to figure itself back out and to become normal again. Your hormones, in my opinion, are probably all over the place and things are unbalanced as far as your hormones and everything. Not even just that, but your mental state is so important. And, but Kimmy actually even stated that she realized the importance of the mental aspect of your being when you're going through something like this. And that's why she was so dead set on being in a positive space mentally. So, yeah, in order for her to continue the healing, after such the aftermath of going through such a tumultuous time, health wise, she's going to have to focus on staying in a good, positive space mentally. And if home is bringing you this much stress, you're going to have to figure out what to do about home, Kimmy. So I wish her the best of luck, but that was just very telling to me. It's like I imagine Kimmy wrapped in this comfortable blanket. She's comfortable. This is a comfort zone. But at the same time, she's not comfortable because inside that blanket are these hidden shards of glass that are just ripping and tearing away at her flesh, just ripping and tearing away at her spiritually is what it's really doing. So again, she's going to have to really sit down and lay down the law and stick to it. But again, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to move on to the final scene because this is the scene where Marceau, Martell, and Tiffany are at Black talking. And like I said in my last, I did do a video. Yeah, my last video about this, Martell actually led Tiffany there, in my opinion, on false pretenses because she thought she was coming there to talk about um, the Selma project. So I guess that's the time when he was going to do, be the Grand Marshal. And I guess she was helping him with that, it seems like. Anyway, not really sure because they didn't expound on it. They didn't get to expound on it because they start talking about the event, the upscale magazine cover event that Martell had. And Tiffany was talking about what her highlight was. And then Martell goes on to say that his highlight was after the event. And so Tiffany looks kind of taken aback, like shocked. And then he goes on to say that the highlight was when he was in conversation with Sheree, and Sheree revealed that Tiffany was asking her all of these questions. So as he's talking, though, and he's talking about the things that he and Sheree talked about and they discussed, and he's upset with Tiffany about it, he's going in. Then Marceau, he also chides in and, he gets a little comical about it, but he's also going in at her and saying stuff like, I can't believe a human would say something like that, and just all kind of crazy things. Being sarcastic, he's being funny, but it's really not funny. First of all, he shouldn't even be there, in my opinion. It's none of his business. But he just seemed to be egging them on, and it kind of tripped me out that he would do that, especially when he has his own unrevealed secrets. But what really got to me about Marceau was that he kept mentioning physical violence. So he mentioned that Tiffany was lucky she was pregnant. Otherwise, Sheree might have laid hands on her. And he also mentioned something to the effect of that she should have been slapped. So this, I found it to be really disgusting. And I'm just thinking like the audacity, like, but first of all, he shouldn't, like I said, it's none of his business. He shouldn't have had anything to say. But then to say those things was just taking it even further. And it just sort of like he was being comical in one respect, but in this respect, to me, total disrespectful. But it also paints a picture of who Marceau is. Like, anyway, the audacity. But Martell, he gets upset and he threatens to tell, he leaves and gathers his things up. He leaves. But as he's leaving, he's threatening to tell Lou on Tiffany, like Lou's her dad. And Tiffany actually even says that, I'm a grown woman and you're going to go tell my husband on me. But anyway, it just speaks to me of his immaturity. Like I always felt that Martell was immature in the way he handled things, but this really to me proves just how immature he really is, because a mature man would have had that conversation with Lou first of all, wouldn't have even been sitting there with Tiffany, or at least he would have had the conversation with Tiffany and Lou together without dragging Marceau into it. But anyway, y'all, that's all I have for you about this particular episode. Like I said, it really wasn't given that much. And really, the sneak peeks gave a lot of what this episode already gave. I think the things that were different was Melody doing the property preservation class and picking up with this conversation with Marceau. Maurice. I'm getting all these M's mixed up. Maurice and Kimmy. But other than that, this episode really wasn't that much. So, but we know, everything that's happening in social media and all of the things that are being revealed out on the YouTube streets, the things that are happening outside of the show actually are more exciting than what's happening on the show. So I will have some more commentary later about these cast members, because there's just a lot to talk about that didn't even happen on the show. So look out for my future videos. If you haven't done so, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because I will be back. I will be back with some more love and marriage Huntsville drama. Until then, ciao.